we've done an episode on the entire Halloween franchise in the past. We've done
Yes.
that, but we've never zeroed in on one of the films in particular.
Jamie Lee Curtis is so protective of Josh Hartnett that she says, "No,
Josh.
yeah, well,
Josh.
it's a hard
Mike just had a
name for me
visit
to
to the
say."
dentist.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Oh Brother Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith.
Spooky time is upon us.
Yeah, and you asked me what I was wearing, but I was being kind of
You were being coy.
I was being coy.
A little Mike
Look at-
Myers
Look
going
at that
on
baby.
there.
Look at that baby.
Wow.
So, here we are, the final, I can't believe it. It's the final episode of 2023 Oh Brother Podcast Halloween Fest.
And
Now,
couldn't come
tell us-
sooner for me except for spooky, but
We've done an episode on the entire Halloween franchise in the past. We've done
yes.
that, but we've never zeroed in on one of the films in particular.
Right.
And this was really your brainchild. And I'm not sure that I even know why, but let's first start how did we get to focusing on what we're going to talk about now, which is H2O,
Mhm.
Halloween H2O 20 years later. So why are we talking about this one in particular?
Well, my thought was instead of bouncing around from movie to movie, because like this movie, H2O, erases 3 through 6, right? This is
Yeah.
actually a sequel to 2. So I
Right.
thought, let's bear down and focus on 1 because there's plenty in here. And
Yeah.
I also think it's one of the better sequels.
Mhm.
Um,
S- Okay.
and-
All right. That's a good rationale.
yeah,
Now we are in the 45th year anniversary of this beauty right here,
crazy.
which of course is the original John Carpenter Halloween. So okay, so let's give the tail of the tape here with Halloween H2O first, and then we'll get into it. But came out August 5th, 1998. Yeah. This was what, 3 years after, or was it 5 or 6 years after 6? I'm trying to
Yeah,
remember
it
the
was a
release date.
ways because 6 was a mess. But
Uh,
the big thing is it's 20 years, literally,
from the original.
from the original, and they
Right.
play it 20 years,
Yeah.
in the movie.
Right. Hence the title. Yeah.
Right, but in this one, unlike the reboot we just had, the trilogy we just had, Jamie Lee Curtis isn't like a warrior. She's in fear in this movie. Fear for
Mhm.
herself, fear for her son.
Up to a
Which
certain point. Up
He
to a certain point.
disappears in the new we
Yeah.
don't know what happened to Josh Hartnett, but
Yeah. Well, we can talk about Josh.
yeah.
All right. So Halloween H2O, directed by Steve Miner. Some people might know he did Friday the 13th, 2 and 3. He did
Mhm.
Forever Young. He did a bunch of other films. Now, this was ultimately written by Robert Zappia. There was a different screenplay, which we can talk a little bit about what this film was to be originally, because
Right.
it
It
did not end up
sounded
that way.
weird, and they even
Yeah.
show in the extras, they show the
Yeah.
script.
There's actually a very good making of
Mhm.
documentary by Scream Factory that was like in 2008. I think it was 20 years after, 10
Yes.
years or 20 years
Some
after
of it
the film or
some of
something.
it is while they're making the movie because you can tell they're in their
Oh, yeah.
clothes that they wear, but
Oh, for
others
sure.
are sit-down interviews later because
Right.
they really hammer the hell out of 8. Did you I mean, they
Resurrection? Yeah.
Resurrection, they really call that trash.
Yeah, Resurrection. All right. So now, I'm mentioning this because I'm going to talk about it as we discuss the film, but the music's composed by John Ottman. We're going to talk
It
a little bit about that.
was,
It
yeah,
was, yeah. It still is to a certain
a
degree.
little bit,
A
yeah.
little bit. It's in there, sure. Cast, your main players, Adam Arkin. Of course, his father just passed away not that long ago. Alan Arkin, the famous actor.
Yeah, great
Michelle
actor.
Williams, Adam Hanbird, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe, Josh Hartnett, who you mentioned, and of course, got to mention LL Cool J. Here's something I didn't know, Mike.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this. I probably knew it, but I can now make the connection better, and you may have known this, but, as you're aware, I've watched all of the, animated Star Wars series, The Clone Wars, right?
Right.
And the narrator of that series and a guy who also does the voice for, like, Yoda and a lot of other characters,
Mhm.
I think he's done, like, SpongeBob and some other things.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Tom Kane was the voice of Dr. Loomis in the opening sequence of
Right.
H2O. I had
Right.
no of course, I knew it wasn't Donald Pleasance, but
Correct.
I never realized it was Tom Kane, and he just did a
A
marvelous job at it.
and he talked about sitting with, uh, his
A
best
friend of
friend,
his, yeah,
and he said, he would coach him. He said it was really difficult doing the voice, and
sure.
he took a lot of cues from Donald Pleasance's friend and said, "Yep,
Mhm.
that's Donald." Because I remember when we first saw this, we were like, "Is that him?" We
Yeah,
were questioning because it sounded
right,
just enough like him,
yeah,
but it was now that I watch it, I can pick it up right away that it's not him.
right, but
But it's
it was
kinda
still
like the new one where they
Mhm.
shot Donald Pleasance and it was a double. That was
Right.
like his doppelganger. I
Well, and
mean,
you also had his voice over that opening sequence in the
right,
2018 film too, which was just as good,
right.
if not better, but you're right, that
The
was crazy.
actor was
Doubling of him,
like,
yeah, that
and
was
I wish
wild.
they stayed with that a little longer because
Mhm.
maybe they didn't want to because people would, you know, eventually see the makeup and it went so quick, you were like, "What? He's
Yeah,
been
right.
dead for many
E
years."
exactly. Yeah, and he ended up I think, he passed away, like, 95 or something like that, so he
Yeah, he
was
passed
yeah,
away
because
and
this was d dedicated to him at the end of H2O, I think, right?
yeah, he was in 6 and he
Correct.
died before it came out, is
Right,
what
that's right.
happened. I think they were
Yeah,
still filming it.
and 6 was, as you said, a complete mess. It
Oh,
was we're coming off of that nightmare where
right,
Danielle Harris, that whole thing about the
right.
lengths she went to get emancipated from her parents and
She was
all
supposed to play Jamie
sh
again,
she was gonna be in it,
and they
and
wound up not using her over a
right,
squabble of
a couple grand.
pennies.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
couple grand, and they were like, "Nah, we don't really care. That character's not that big a deal." Right? So then they end up casting this other woman, this older actress at the time,
mhm,
not much older at that point, but she was, over 18 at least, I guess.
right.
JC something or other, I forget her last name, Bryce or something.
They were friends, they knew each other,
They did,
her
yeah.
and
They
Danielle.
they met through an acquaintance, like, years later or sometime after the fact, and actually, you hear Danielle Harris talk about the fact that this girl said later on, "I took so much over that
Right, from
part in
fans.
replacing you." Yeah, of
Yes,
course, of course.
yes.
But that film, the whole Thorn thing, and it was just a complete joke,
And they were
and
trying to pay off the Man in Black, and that was just got worse.
it got worse. It got worse, yeah, and Paul Rudd, you
Paul
know
Rudd doesn't even own up to being in it, you
right,
know?
exactly. Good luck asking him about his involvement in it, yeah.
Right.
Now, this is interesting because there's some debate out there about the origin of, like, how this came to be. Because originally, right, we know anybody that's a Halloween fan knows this was gonna be a straight to video production.
Yeah.
That's all this was gonna be, right?
I actually
And
didn't know that until I
mm,
watched the extras
mhm,
because it's not in the commentary, but you're
yeah,
right, it was supposed to be straight to video.
right, and it was still Robert Zapia, he was still attached to it as a writer at that point,
Right.
and it had this copycat killer premise to it, where
That
Charlie, the
right.
character Charlie, right, was a copycat killer paying
Jo
homage to Michael Myers.
he's Josh Hartnett's friend in this, and he could have
Correct.
played Cyrano at the time, although he's grown into his nose.
He It's very insulting for you to say that,
I
first of all.
know, I
And in
know.
fact, it's funny you say that because I go back and watch it now. I thought he was very, at the time, kind of awkward, which he was supposed to be to a degree,
Right, right.
but it's not as it's not as striking as it might have seemed back in '98, you know?
Yeah.
And I as you said, he's sort of grown into his own now.
Yeah, and when you see him today,
Yeah.
it's he's a great storyteller too.
Oh, yeah, yeah, for sure. But that was a big part of it was it was this copycat killer idea, and
Right,
then here's where some of the debate comes into play, which is it Jamie Lee Curtis's idea? Was it Bob Weinstein's idea?
right,
Right, and you can see in some of the interviews Jamie Lee Curtis talking about, well, it was, coming up on the 20th anniversary, and I thought, so she kinda makes a claim to it, but then you see another interview with Malik Akkad referencing Weinstein had this idea, so
right,
who knows? Bottom
right.
line is she comes in and gets attached to the film, they go to Zapia, say, "Okay, now you're
You
scrap
gotta
all that,
film.
you got
Right,
a feature film on your hands, and you gotta work Jamie Lee Curtis's character back into this." So,
right.
that's where we pick up. And the first, 15 minutes of this film is an homage to really, the first, film. You know what I mean? There's a lot of with the Loomis reference and
Mhm,
having Nurse Marion in there and that kinda
mhm.
thing.
And
It's
she's keeping notes through the years of all the killings and
correct. There's
basically
even a
followed his path.
framed picture of Loomis in her office in her
Yeah.
house, you know? You know what it reminded me of a little bit was the opening of Godfather 3. 'Member
Hmm.
how they're recounting the first couple films? They're going through
Oh, right,
they're
right.
montaging the leaves blowing up
And
the
they
yard.
even have Fredo. They even show Fredo
That's
getting
right.
whacked.
Right,
But now it's different. They've changed
mhm.
it.
But it has a similar kind of vibe in terms of
Yeah,
the kinda look back montage that they were doing to pay homage to it,
yeah.
to what came before. So, do we need what's the synopsis here of H2O from 1998?
Yeah, it's basically just 20 years later. Jamie Lee Curtis she's changed her name, changed her identity. So nobody knows she's related to Michael Myers. And she's working
Right.
for this, what would you call it, a prep school?
Yeah, it's an all girls school.
S- Oh, okay. So the boys were from another
I guess,
campus?
yeah, I mean, she had Josh there, at least part of the story was that she had him there because to keep watch over him,
Correct.
essentially.
And she's
But
living in fear.
that begs a question as you're saying that, then what's the explanation for Charlie being there?
Right.
Why
And they had
why is
the same
Charlie there?
coat that
Right,
matched the
right.
girls' outfits.
That's right, that's right. So, I don't
I did.
know, that I'll have we'd have to go back to the tail of the tape on that one,
Yeah.
but you're right, she's like Carrie Tate or something,
Yeah.
not Laurie Strode, and
Until
she's what
she
did you
tells Adam Arkin at one point who she really is, and he's kinda, like, not
and
in
he's a
disbelief.
right, he's a counselor at this school,
Mhm.
and they've got a thing going,
Right,
right? Yeah.
right.
So okay,
And
so go ahead.
and
I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah, but, so instead of taking the approach that they took in 2018 where she becomes a warrior and she's looking for a fight, just the opposite. She's behind bars literally at this prep school.
Very
You can't get
paranoid.
in. There's LL Cool J is like the gatekeeper, and
Yeah.
he's supposed to keep the kids in and keep everyone else out.
Eyes up, Ronnie.
Yeah. And, the kids, of course, would be kids. They sneak off to get some alcohol because
Right.
they're not going on a field trip. You know, Jamie Lee Curtis is so protective of Josh Hartnett that she says, "No."
Jarsh.
Yeah, well,
Jarsh.
it's a hard
Mike
name
just had a
for me to
visit to the
say.
dentist.
Yeah. At the end, Jamie Lee kinda they plan their own party.
They end up not going
Josh,
off
they
campus.
wind
They
up
end up
not going,
staying right,
staying, and they're gonna have
unbeknownst
their
to
own.
her.
Right. They're gonna have their own party. They snuck in to get booze or snuck out to get booze. LL Cool J takes, some guff because he didn't catch them.
Eyes up,
And
Bonnie.
and in the meantime, we see this van just kind of parked out there randomly, and so that's apparently how Michael Myers gets into the school.
Yeah, that was one of my little pet
Yeah,
peeves about it.
that
Like, nobody
truck,
saw that 2 feet behind her car was this old, like, 1949
right.
jalopy, you
It
know?
almost looked like a morgue truck.
Right.
Like
It was
Michael,
very out of
if it said Michael Myers is in here, that would have
it
been
it should have said Michael Myers Painting Incorporated or something. He's doing some side gigs in between kills, you know? So,
Oh, man.
okay, go ahead.
But, really, so that they have the party, Michael Myers gets in, and the killing begins, you
Yeah,
know?
and there's this whole back and forth in the beginning too, prior to that about, Jamie Lee's her character and the son getting into it about like, "I'm 17,"
Right,
which she was in the original film, that's referenced, but, "I'm 17, I can't be living like this anymore, you got me locked up." It's like, it's been 20 years. Don't you think that he would have come back by now and all of this,
right,
right? So he's
right.
fighting for his independence to get the hell out of there.
And
But then
that
ironically, as you say, they end up staying there.
right, and that alone erases the other movies by him saying, "Wouldn't he have come back by?" Well, he did in the last 5 movies that we're ignoring.
That's right. That's true. That's
So,
true.
that was kind of a weird line, but
Yeah.
yeah, so he starts with the kids,
Mhm.
and I think, Charlie's
Yeah.
the first one to take it.
Charlie is, yeah, and, Charlie, the famous scene of him, this was a brilliant, right, building the anticipation and all of that and the tension where he's drops a corkscrew into the sink because they're having a little bit of a party in the
Right,
dorm, and he goes to get a corkscrew, so a bottle of wine they need to open, so he goes, drops the corkscrew, and I mean, at that point, what you think is gonna happen, and his hand's gonna get all cut up in the
right.
doesn't
Instead,
happen.
he goes in this dumbwaiter that goes up to the next floor. He
Speaking
gets
of which, there's one of our favorite scenes in this film, right? Is Chris Durand as Michael Myers looking up the shaft of the dumbwaiter
yeah.
when that gets hoisted up. Such a great shot.
There's a lot of really great shots.
Mhm.
I mean, of all the Halloween movies, this has the most iconic directing shots of any of them. Even I even go back to the first one. There's one of the shots when they come face to face. Dan
Mhm.
was holding up the back of the steel book, which
Right.
has Laurie and her brother Michael go, for the first time in 20 years, are face to face.
Right. Right.
Great, and the way he gets there, the director gets there with the kids trying to get the keys to get in, and finally, they open it, they get the kids in, slam the door, there's Laurie's face and Michael
Mhm.
right there. That was a great shot.
Yeah, it was great. There's a lot of references to, not only previous, the original film, but other films as well. There's, the famous one from the original where, Laurie Strode is in the classroom and she just kinda daydreaming and she looks outside and sees the shape.
Right.
They they
Said it's
they
Michelle Williams.
It's Michelle Williams in this case, same thing. She looks out, she sees, she thinks she sees someone out there. Charlie makes a comment to Josh, "You're gonna be, you're still gonna be living with your mother in 20 years, running some motel somewhere," reference to
The
Psycho,
Psycho. And they had the
Scream
Psycho car.
had the Psycho car. They even had the license plate, I guess, of one of the cars that she drove in Psycho.
Yeah.
And the initials of Norman Bates were on the license plate. Um, Char there was also, the one good scare, the Charles Cyphers line from the original that now Janet Leigh says to her daughter, Jamie Lee Curtis, which, yeah, I guess everybody's entitled to one good scare.
Right.
She pulls
Right.
that. So there's a lot of that stuff going on, and then
Yeah.
the one where Scream is playing on the TV, Scream
And
2, I think it's
and
Scream 2.
Right, and Michael
Chris Duran.
Myers is the one with the mask.
Right,
That's
it's very
funny.
it's kinda cool, I like that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, you mentioned some iconic scenes. That dumbwaiter scene is awesome. The reflection in the window, in the mirror, or the window actually
Mhm,
is fantastic. Also, I love this is towards the end where he's chasing her
mhm.
in, the dining hall or wherever it is in the school, and he's flipping the tables, you
Right.
know?
It was interesting to watch that and listen to Ottman's score, which got pulled.
You know what it reminded me of? It was very like "doot doo doot 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 doot," like, it was very bizarre if you
Yeah.
listen to that, right? And it made me think of from Halloween, was it 4? Where those cops, and I pointed this out to you, if you go back and listen to the soundtrack on that film, couple of the sheriff, the deputies, when
Mhm.
they would walk, they would like honk, honk, squeak, squeak, doot, doot, like it was all
Yeah,
goofy sound effects that they were using. Is very bizarre. But yeah, Oppman's soundtrack just doesn't fit when you hear it
yeah.
isolated.
Because you don't hear the tables going,
Right.
and the suspense isn't the same.
It's
And
not the
there's a
same.
scene before that that we both like as well
I
where
was saving that for the
okay, go
last.
ahead. I'll let
Yeah.
you do it.
Well, they had been talking about like ways to give Michael more gravitas in this film and some of these sequences. And Chris Duran's obviously a very well accomplished stunt performer. There was like this piping in the
Mhm,
ceiling,
mhm.
and it had just enough clearance. And they said, "Do you think you might be able to lower yourself down from there?" He said, "Yeah, sure." And there's the scene that you always talk about with the
Oh, I
film where
love
he
it.
just slowly lowers himself down behind her.
After yeah, she walks
She
by,
walks past, and
and
then
then
he
you
just
see
his foot come
behind
down.
her. It's
So great.
great shot. It's so good they stole it in the next movie.
Yeah,
Almost the exact same shot, which
in
was kinda
in Resurrection, yeah.
yeah. I wonder where you put this in the Hallow I know
But
what
now
your favorite
I'm not ready to
oh,
get to
okay, you're
that just
not don't
yet.
wanna go there yet, okay.
No, because we gotta talk about the mask issue.
Right,
There
right.
was such a huge issue with the mask. So, the
Yes,
score was bad enough, like, that was a whole debacle, right?
that was a mess.
And they brought in Marco Beltrami and kind of layered a new soundtrack by him over Ottman's soundtrack. They did the best they could with it. They had run out of time, I think, or else they would have rescored the whole entire film.
Yeah,
So that was one problem that they had to deal with. But then the issue with the mask, there was 4 different masks that were
right.
used in the film, right? The main ones are referred to as the K&B mask and the Stan Winston mask.
Mhm.
K&B mask being kind of that's the original mask. Very featureless, very kind of some people said it looked like an alien, a
Right,
lot of forehead, and it
which
was
is
kind of
literally
bizarre.
William Shatner mask, right?
No,
The
this was
first one,
not
the
even
original.
it wasn't even that. It was a kind of a diversion from that a little bit.
Mhm.
Um,
I know they used the mask from 6 for part of it, and they
Only in the
hated
very
it.
beginning, only in the
Right,
opening
and it's
shot.
still there.
Yeah,
It's
only in
still
the
in the
opening
shot.
shot.
Yeah.
Well, there's a great you can see a great kind of, mashup of all the masks
Oh, really?
in the film. Yeah, and they go K and B, Stan Winston, like, as the scenes are popping up, and then at one point, it would be like, "K and B, probably," with a question mark, because it was hard to follow it. But the one you see all the close-ups are the Stan Winston mask, where the hair is a little bit more kinda
Right,
crazy,
bushy,
right?
yeah.
It's a little kinda out.
Now, was that
Um,
an extra on yours? Because you just
no.
said it popped up. I thought you were talking about
No, it just featurettes that I was watching while I
oh,
was kind of
okay.
diving into this a little bit. I think a lot of it came from that Scream Factory
Okay.
making of that was just really good. Um, but then there's that shot where he confronts Charlie after he pulls his hand out of the garbage disposal with the corkscrew.
Mhm.
This absolutely pitiful CGI mask that they put on him. It's only like a second, but it's so horrible, and the director of photography was like, "I'm not sure why we didn't go back and reshoot that." He said,
Right.
"Maybe we destroyed that set and just wasn't time." Like, I don't know, but it was horrible. So,
Yeah.
that was a big problem
It
with
was a
this,
big issue
big,
throughout.
big issue. Yeah, and there's Chris Duran kind of like, "I don't know, I just wear the mask.
Right, just give me a
Just
mask to wear, that's all I'm
give me
looking
the knife
for.
and point me in a direction and I'm good."
Right,
Now
right.
you say, "Where do I put this?"
Yeah.
So it's interesting because if we're thinking about now, does this include Rob Zombie's 1 and 2, or am I leaving that out
Well,
of it?
I know you like Rob Zombie. You're favorable to Rob Zombie 1, but that really isn't part of the universe that we're in because he did, I guess, what you would call a reboot,
But
right?
6 is,
I know,
3 is, I mean,
yeah, I
so
mean,
I
I
think
I
if you
would
could
count all of them. I would
yeah,
throw in the zombie ones.
just to have a completist I don't know that influences my ordering that much, but, for me, I would have to say, um, that I don't think anything can touch the original. I
No,
just think
I
it's
don't think
just too
so.
good. The way it was made, the budget, everything
Right,
about it, it's
right.
just classic, right? So I
In
don't think it's
fact,
even
Mustafa Khan talks about John Carpenter came to him and said, "I can do it for 300,000." And he
Mhm.
was like, I'm paying 300,000 a day for other movies." Yeah,
Yeah,
you could do it even through in a $20,000
yeah.
bonus
You're
because he
hired.
brought it in. Yeah, he brought it in on budget.
Right. So it's gotta be the original at the top of the
Yeah,
list, right?
I agree.
And then it gets pretty difficult. I mean, I think, I'll leave zombie out of it for now, at least. I
Mhm.
can I can do, like, a different rating, but, I really liked the 2018 one,
Yeah, me
uh,
too.
but I just that doctor sequence is just hard to stomach, that character of the doctor, where he's
Right.
at the sanitarium is so horrible and
And where he
really
becomes, like, obsessed with wanting to
right, it's kind
be
of the copycat
it's
sort of
really
idea.
stupid, yeah.
Very stupid. But other than that, to me, that's a very solid, installment in the series.
Mhm,
I'm but then I think, H2O comes sailing in as much as I like 4 and 5,
mhm,
because of Loomis and Danielle Harris. I just got a soft spot. I think the age I was when those came out,
mhm,
there's a lot that plays into that. Um, but I think H2O is probably next and then 4 and 5,
mhm.
you know? Um, and then I think that's where I bring Zombies' first one into it,
Yeah.
right? And then probably Season of the Witch, you
Wow.
know? I think Season of the Witch is coming before Resurrection on my
I
on
think,
my list.
I honestly think it probably should, and it should come before 6,
Yeah, no
'cause that was
disrespect to
garbage.
Busta Rhymes, but,
Right. It was
and
almost like
and
they were trying to copy,
well, Malik,
"Well, we
it
got a
it says
rapper,
as
let's
much.
get another rapper."
He said exactly that. He said, "I think we tried to copycat too much of what we did in H2O,
Mhm.
and instead of putting something out that was more original," and I think
Yeah.
that's evident
That
in the
should have gone
film.
straight to video. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's funny because I don't hate it. I really don't because there's a handful of scenes in it that make me like it enough,
and
that
there's a clever idea that, they're in the Myers house and
Mhm.
they're gonna stream it,
Right,
it's a
they were
modern idea, but
right.
it's just not
Witch
executed.
it's the Blair Witch version of Halloween, basically, right?
Yeah.
The found footage premise,
Right,
they
right.
so so I don't hate it, but it's not high up on the list, and then 6 is, like, way
Has
down
to be the lowest.
at the
Although the
bottom.
producer's cut makes a lot more sense, it's
I would
still
I'd put Rob Zombie's 2nd one before I would
see, and
above
I didn't
6.
like that one at all.
Well,
His
yeah,
second one was just
yeah.
disconnected and,
Well, it was the
the
white
white
horse,
horse wasn't explained. I can't believe we both said it at the same
the mother
time.
figure. It was bizarre,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I would probably put, the 2nd one before I would bring in, probably right after H2O, Halloween 2, I would
yeah,
put after
yeah,
H2O.
and again, that had problems, but yeah, we're pretty close. I put the original first. 2nd, yes, he's holding up that case again. 2nd, I would put, it's between Zombies first and the 2018. So those are
Wow,
2 and 3 to me, and then
wow.
H2O would be 4th,
That's interesting.
followed by, I think, 2.
That's interesting.
So, yeah, and
Wow,
the
so
score I would give H2O is 75, so,
okay.
you
Now,
know,
okay, Metascore of 52. Rotten Tomatoes, 54% from the critics, 49% from the audience on Rotten
wow.
Tomatoes.
Michelle Williams, at the beginning with the titles, it says introducing Josh Hartnett.
Well,
It should have
none of them
said
were known.
introducing Michelle
Yeah.
Williams.
Well, yeah, none
She's
of them
gone
were
on to
really
be the biggest star.
oh, but who knew? Who
Yeah,
knew? You know,
and
and
she
and
looks
Hartnett
very different.
yeah.
She looks very much younger. The Michelle Williams we see today, I could put those next to each other and I would say, "Yeah, there's no
I don't know,
likeness
her hair,
there."
short hair. I don't know. I mean, I think
Yeah,
she
she
looks
had
great, but
curly hair
yeah,
and,
she was like
just looked
whatever
different.
they were, 18, whatever age they were at the
Right,
time, 19 or something.
right.
But, honestly, all of the performances I thought were good. I didn't have a problem with any of them. LL Cool J I thought was good and believable.
Yeah,
He played it the way it was supposed to be played, that perfect kind of bumbling security guard.
right.
I would like to know I should have looked it up in the credits who his girlfriend was on the other end of the phone that was giving him
Oh,
such because he's in the security booth just working on like a trying to write a film, right?
right,
And he's reading the lines to her and she's giving him all kinds of grief and stuff. But
right.
that's a funny character that
I
doesn't get
think
talked
I
about a
heard
lot
it once, and I just can't call
of
to
who it
mind.
is.
Yes.
I wonder if it'll say if I look it
I
up
think it
because
was
I
referenced
would like to know.
somewhere.
Oh, Cheryl, right? It was Cheryl.
That was her name
Yeah.
in the
So
movie,
it's I
okay.
believe it's Lisa Gay Hamilton, I think is who that
Okay,
is. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, see,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
it's not anybody we know or, went on to have, like, a career like Michelle Williams,
That's
but,
interesting.
but it is kinda
Well,
funny how these characters just vanish in
she
the
was in the li
2018
she was in
instead of a
5 episodes of The Lincoln Lawyer. She was in The Boogeyman this year,
mm,
another horror film.
I've
But
seen
yeah,
that on
anyways,
cable.
but a shout out to her performance 'cause, it's one
Yeah.
that just nobody talks about it, but it's pretty funny. Chris Duran was awesome. He was awesome in this. I mean,
Yeah.
the stunt work, the there's one point where Jamie Lee stops short in the car and he goes sailing out the windshield
Mhm.
and does a tuck and roll and then gets right up. I mean, it's crazy
He's
stuff.
not one of the more muscular, like,
He's a big
zombies.
dude.
Yeah, but, when you're watching him in the extras, he's just sitting in a chair. He doesn't you don't get that feeling that he
I
was
think you would
Michael
if he stood
Myers.
up. Yeah,
Maybe,
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, but look
but
at Nick
com
Castle. Nick Castle's like, I'm bigger than Nick Castle.
right, but compare it
Yeah.
to Rob Zombie's.
Which is that you can't that's why one of the reasons I like Rob Zombie so much is because of Tyler Maine's performance and, his physical
Presence.
presence is
Yeah.
just enormous, and it
He
brings a lot of realism to that,
Yeah, he
brutality.
destroys the shack that they built that was supposed to be, like,
Like
made of,
balsa
like
wood.
right, and it wasn't, and
It was like solid oak or something,
yeah,
and
and he
he was
still
getting pissed.
slammed it, yeah,
He broke through it though, yeah.
so but,
Good
yeah, in
lord.
the end, I think this is definitely one of the better sequels.
Now, the ending has some issues, right? Which they had to then deal with in the beginning of 8 Resurrection, right? Because of the whole
Right,
spoiler alert, but Michael, let's say, loses his head for, lack of a
right,
better way to put it, right? Literally.
and they literally, um, plan that out in advance because Mustafa had the deal where he doesn't die.
Mhm.
So they were trying to convince him, and this is the way they convinced him, "Okay, we're gonna chop the head off," but so they
But
already had it planned ahead.
it's really a paramedic that he
Right.
and then he's crushed his larynx, so he couldn't call for help. It was like a whole thing, but
And I think
you can see that in the extras.
yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis actually signed some kinda deal that she would do H2O as long as she did Resurrection, but only if
The
they
first
killed her in
10
the first 10
minutes.
minutes, yeah.
Right,
So,
right, which
but,
is
then
exactly
you go ahead to 2018 where they once again wipe the slate clean
that's right.
and they start fresh from 1, and what a different perspective we get, and, I
I
like
s
that perspective.
I see more similarities with her character in the 2 films than I think
Really?
you portrayed. Well, think about it. She's behind an iron gate, right? She's got the house. This is in
True,
2018 film. She
true,
got the
yeah.
house fortified. She's out there practicing on her gun range, her shooting range, right? And
Right, right,
so she's prepared. She maybe wasn't as prepared in H2O,
right.
but she's equally paranoid and hiding essentially, but she's ready.
Right.
But by the end of
She
H2O, she's ready, right? Because
yeah,
there's a great scene when she locks everybody out of the school. She
right.
locks the gate, stays inside, kicks open this, beside the guard shack. She gets the axe. And
Mhm.
then that awesome when she's just standing there and it's a silhouette and she
Right,
just says, Michael,
right.
calling for him is so
And
good.
the smoke in the
Right.
distance,
It was good. It was good.
we've always said that, we have all the Halloweens, both of us have all of the movies, and we've always
Mhm.
said we can find something good
They're all right back there,
in
folks. Every
just
one of
about
them.
every one of them. Even 6, we can find a scene
Mhm.
that works, but,
That
Zombies 2 was a little difficult for
That's a
me.
tough one. 6,
Yeah.
that's a tough one, but
Yeah,
there's a
6 is a
scene or
tough one
2,
too.
but that's a tough one, yeah.
Yeah.
It's probably a scene with Donald Pleasance, that's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there you go, I mean, I can't
How to
believe it.
how to
It
end
wraps up
Halloween Fest.
wrapping up Halloween Fest, celebrating the 45th anniversary of the original film with a focus leaning hard, per Mike's request, into H2O, which, it's a nice installment in the franchise. It's
Mhm.
definitely up there, one of my favorites. So it was nice to revisit it again. And as you know, I just recently completed my digital collection of all the Halloween films, so I now own them all.
Mhm. Good
And
and bad.
good and bad. That's right. I am a completist when it comes to Halloween, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. Now by the time you hear this, I think we will be getting ready to appear at Spooky Empire in
Mhm.
Orlando at the Hyatt Regency. We're going to be there all weekend. So if you happen to be in the Orlando area, October 27th through the 29th, stop by, get your tickets now, and there may still be tickets by the time you get this podcast episode. But yeah, stop by the table, see us. We're going to have giveaways and all kinds of fun
Mhm.
stuff going on there. Excited, and they just announced that Kiefer is gonna be there all weekend now,
Oh, good,
so that's cool. That's good
because
to know, yeah.
we've gotta catch up.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been
Yeah,
a
it's been a
while.
while. But, this is the, last official movie review of Halloween Fest, but I do wanna point out, for every review we did, I watched at least 4 other horror movies. I mean, I
Why?
watched 4 Exorcists
Mhm.
movies to prepare for The Exorcist.
For the research, yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we also had a couple of interviews where we watched movies. So, Halloween Fest has been long, I think it'll be shorter next year, but the amount of movies and I think I put, yeah, over here, the
Yeah.
Universal, that's the Blu-ray box, but inside is all the 4Ks too.
The the
I
classic
watched
monsters.
yeah, the Universal Invisible Man, and last
Mhm.
night I watched Creature from the Black Lagoon, and so I'm done with, after Spooky Empire, which I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully,
Yeah.
people will stop by, say hello, but,
Sure.
you don't have to travel far, I do, but
No,
it's in
yeah,
your backyard.
you'll be here before you know it.
Yeah, are you
But,
gonna be
yeah, it's
sporting that at, spooky
I
or
might. I haven't decided on the, attire,
Mhm.
officially yet, but, this might come out for reviewing. I don't know. Yeah. It's, yeah, it's I can't believe we're at the end of, Halloween Fest. As you said, the 2023 Halloween Fest has been long.
It's been
Um,
long
Definitely
and a
taken in a
lot of
lot of films.
films.
Yeah, but, look back on it with pride. I think we put out some good episodes. Hopefully, everybody's enjoyed it. Thanks to all of you that have subscribed to the YouTube channel. Make sure that you hit the thumbs up and, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss an episode. And, when you like the videos, you comment on it, really does kinda help with the engagement of the videos on the show, so we appreciate that. But yeah, that's gonna do it, Mike. By the time we get on the mic again, we're
We'll
gonna
be
be out of Halloween
together.
Fest and looking at some other films. One film in particular that might be as long as Halloween Fest has been for us, which is Killers of the Flower Moon by Martin
That's right.
Scorsese.
Looking forward to that
It's a good
one.
3 hours and 30 minutes almost, I think.
Mhm.
All right. Well, Halloween Fest 2023 in the bag. That's another episode of the Oh Brother Podcast. Been your host, Dan Smith. Alongside me, as always, my brother from the same mother, Mike Smith. And we will see you next time.
See you from Spooky. Boo, everyone.